Hello and welcome to Future Web episode number 3. I'm Daniel Brusilovsky.
I'm Brian Wong.
I'm Joey Permiani.
And this week we have a very special guest, the co-founder and CEO of Mez, Safir Muhaddin.
Hey guys, how are you?
Welcome, Safir.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Sure.
So a little bit about Future Web. We're a show here on Twit once a month where we talk about all things young entrepreneurs, technology, startups, Silicon Valley, and beyond. We'll go into a little bit of intros about ourselves so you guys know who we are. I'm Daniel Brusilovsky. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Teens in Tech Labs. We help young entrepreneurs through an incubator program and a conference. We've been around for almost 4 years, and we just finished our last batch of incubatees last summer, and we incubated 6 companies, and we just announced our program for this summer. Brian?
Hi, I'm Brian Wong, founder and CEO of Keep, and we are a rewards network. We started the company 18 months ago, and I was previously at Dig, and now we're about 20 employees and kicking it and doing rewards for hitting achievements in games.
Hi, my name is Joey Permiani. I'm an entrepreneur and designer. I'm co-founder of Backplane, and my Twitter is @JP. And we're working on building community back onto the web. Before this, I was at Google and created Cortex, and really honored and happy to be on the show.
And Safir, let's hear a little bit about you. What do you do? What's Mez and all that good stuff?
Sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mez. Mez is about discovering local activities happening right now about you. It's for our generation. We're spontaneous. We don't like to plan. We want to find something to do right now. That's what we're about.
Awesome. So let's jump into our first segment, which is all about current news. So Google Plus, how many are you guys all on Google Plus?
First of all, I do want to outline the fact that we will have 3 segments in total.
Yes,
just so
3
you guys
segments.
know. There will be a current news and discussion, a segment about younger entrepreneurs in the Valley that we'll be highlighting, and then another one that we changed up and around on the third one, which last show was Guess That Business Model based on the name of the company. But this time we're going to do stuff young entrepreneurs say, following along the trend that starts with a word that we're not going to mention on this show, but stuff XYZ people say. So
Yes.
It'll be a lot of fun. We've been crowdsourcing some of these from Twitter and Facebook, and we'll be sharing some of our favorites. So
Yep.
kick it off, Daniel.
So this was actually pretty big news. On the 26th of January, just 2 days ago, Bradley Horowitz, who is the vice president and kind of in charge of Google Plus over at Google, announced that Google Plus is now officially open to teenagers between the ages of 13 and 17. There are a few online security acts that limit young people from using certain web services. And Google Plus took this, or Google in general, took this very seriously, and they developed a whole new feature set for these young users, which includes sharing content. You can share privately with your circles or publicly. They have really explicit sharing options. They have very explicit notification options. Google Hangouts, or Google Plus Hangouts, is a huge feature in Google Plus, and they're making it so that teens are notified that they are joining a Hangout and making sure that they are aware of what they're doing, and a bunch of other things. They even launched a Google Plus Safety Center.
Wait, so you're saying that if you're younger,
Yes.
they have special features to help accommodate that for you? Okay,
Yes.
very cool. But
Which I
basically
think
the theme of it is that teenagers are now allowed on Google Plus.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And I think that's big. I mean, I think it's a big step for Google, showing that they are serious about wanting to build this mass social network and really try to take on, I think, Facebook. I think Twitter has had a hard time getting young people using it actively, which really means posting content, not just reading tweets.
Yeah.
And I think
you
Google
two are
Plus.
still teenagers, so how do you feel about that?
What do you think, Safir?
So I think it's a good move, just because there's more and more younger people joining the web 2.0. And I think it's a great way for people to introduce yourself. Obviously, you have to have a little bit more privacy, a little bit more safety when you're dealing with younger people, but I think it's the right move forward because everybody is soon going to be online, and you want to protect those people.
Yeah. So, example with Google Plus is when you are going to join a Hangout, a little pop-up comes up that says, for your protection, your mic and camera have been muted because name, join this Hangout but isn't in your circles. So essentially with Google Plus Hangouts, you can only join Hangouts with people in your circles, which helps eliminate strangers and things like that, because you don't want an old creepy guy trying to join a Hangout with you and making chat roulette 2.0.
Yeah. I'm not a teenager anymore, so I can't comment specifically on the teenage front, but it's sad. Dude, I think it's not like they weren't there already. I think we've always been able to get through age. Like, okay, I'm just going to change my age on the drop-down menu. I was born in 1950 most of the time. No, dude, I mean, we all did that. So I think this is all this. I believe this feels like a very PR-oriented play. Yeah. Just saying, hey, we care. We want to be the nice guys. I think it's a big. It's interesting because this also comes in the heels of the huge privacy kerfuffle that Google's been in over the last week.
Yep.
So this is, I guess, their effort to try to make people feel more secure about it for letting their children go online, but that's still not something that I think is going to. All the problems are not going to go away.
Yeah, I think the story here, I think, is less about we're making these new safety enhancements and more about Google Plus really wanting to help take a lot of the young people off of Facebook and using Google Plus, because all of the young people are on Facebook. I mean, I don't think I've met more than a handful of people who are not already on Facebook, but none of them use Google Plus. So I think what Google Plus is trying to do is to prove to the parents that this is a safe place for your kids to be spending online and things like that.
Is there a teenaged, positioned social network? You know what I mean? I don't think there has been, MySpace had sort of that immature feel to it.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I don't think that's the hot one anymore. I think FormSpring kind of had that title for a little while.
Oh, and they still are. I mean,
but
they're
not
growth.
a social network, though.
Yeah, I think the thing was
they're trying to be.
They really wanted to be for the parents, like having these candid responses, so that, that it's almost like limiting to like the things that you can actually say. I think it is a good move for Google to, obviously start with a, much younger audience to make it a little bit more cool, a little bit more fun. It could definitely use that. It feels, kind of a little dry right now. So, I mean, if there's a little bit more interesting content, I would definitely say Tumblr is probably...
Yeah, the chat room mentioned Tumblr a lot.
Tumblr is like blowing up for just, I know, myself and my younger sister in high school and everything, we post on Tumblr like all the time because it's just much more fun and much more media oriented. And
what I love about that, though, because Tumblr and FormSpring were not originally positioned as a social network. I feel like teens will not respond if you go, hey guys, we created an area, go socially network now. It's like you're not going to socially network because someone told you to socially network.
Yeah.
The brilliance of FormSpring and Tumblr, I don't think they planned it this way, was because FormSpring is Q&A. That's a natural behavior of gossip and curiosity and getting to know each other and breaking ice. And so that became a very popular activity around that age group. And then you look at Tumblr, which is just sharing your thoughts and journaling and just pouring your heart out onto the internet anonymously, is like a way to do your thing.
Yeah.
So if it's like, sure, I believe Google Plus may have the audience from the teenage group, but it's still going to be, here, socially network, hang out with the cameras, and here, post your notes and photos and whatnot. And it's so contrived. Yeah. And I think that's going to be one of the things that you have to overcome as a barrier. One
thing that I did notice is, I did graduate high school almost 2 years ago, but when I was in high school, on Facebook, in your About page where you put a URL of, where for us we would put our company's URL or our personal blogs, people would put their FormSpring profiles. And there would be so much discussion. People I went to, high school with were using FormSpring, and that's what I found really interesting. Is none of them were using Twitter. They were all, of course, using Facebook, but they were all really adopting FormSpring.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think Tumblr is a good, much more visual and much more rich way, which is the future of pictures and video and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So it's a good way for people to express themselves, and I think that's the future.
Yeah, dude, and the theming is so complex that I feel like it's actually enabling teens to be much more creative, and so they actually like that. It's like they actually go into the code and change things around and make things look crazy.
That's something I'm definitely really passionate about. I think one thing about when everything transferred from MySpace to Facebook, there was that element where you can actually edit your HTML and CSS and be a little bit more creative. I feel like people really want to have their self-expression and find themselves by posting these images. Even Facebook is doing that now, obviously, with the cover photo, making it a little bit more personal. And through limited kind of things on the social network where you can't actually post that much text or things like that. People are more inclined to post images and photos that kind of go towards that, making it a little bit more creative, and that's what I'm really excited about as the future.
Yeah. So let's move on to our next story. This one comes from the Huffington Post, which is about password sharing and saying that for teens, a lot of them are sharing passwords with their fellow teenagers to online services, which I was a little taken back when I saw this article because I know a lot of teenagers and I don't know anyone who shares their password with anyone else unless it's with someone else in their family. But I just found this article to be interesting, and I don't know if I would believe it 100%. But you have to keep in mind that the four of us, we live in the center of Silicon Valley, and that our thought process is probably a lot different than someone who lives in Nebraska or in a place that doesn't necessarily have startups every other block.
Yeah. First of all, this is Huffington Post, so I would take it with a grain of salt. Secondly, it's interesting. This also comes on the heels of the huge Zappos hacking. Remember?
Yes.
And Zappos, but I don't think teens will shop on Zappos because they don't have a credit card. But anyways, it's interesting because I think password activity, I'd like to blow this out into a more interesting sort of overlooking view of the fact that passwords as an identifier, I think, is kind of dying because you have your Facebook Connect as your key to pretty much everything now.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. So maybe this just shows that privacy, as we originally think of as our sort of near and dear item to our heart, is actually not as big of a concern, or is at least changing in the way that the newer generation is looking at it.
And just to be perfectly clear, I have nothing against Nebraska. I'm just saying...
Why are they dissing Nebraska?
They're saying I'm dissing Nebraska. I have nothing against Nebraska. Nebraskans, you guys are great. I haven't met really anyone from Nebraska. I'm sure you guys are all great. I was just using that as an example of a city that doesn't, or a state that doesn't have a lot of startups like Silicon Valley.
You never know.
That's right. I never know.
Awesome, dude.
But yeah, so Saphir, what do you think? I mean, I doubt you probably share any of your passwords.
No, I probably don't, but I agree with Brian on the privacy issue. I think the question before was, no, I don't want anything to be public, but now I think the question is, why can't this be public, right? So I don't think the privacy barrier has gone away, especially with Facebook, and Facebook is kind of your new social profile, and everybody has it. It's a kind of way to prove that this is actually someone real. And I think that's really important in the future, and connect with, log in with Facebook is going to be the future and all other websites.
You know what's fascinating is I look at the definition of privacy, and it's funny to see how it's completely been perturbed by what's happening out there right now. It's like the state or condition of being free from being observed or disturbed by other people.
But the problem is
that's happening every day.
Yeah, there's so much information out there. Like, I can find your Twitter or Tumblr or whatnot, and I can follow it publicly. And
yeah, dude.
All the information out there, there's nothing that you can do to stop anyone from it.
Dude, the definition of privacy here has been completely changed, I feel.
Yeah.
The future is much more open and public than private.
But very fascinating. Awesome.
Next story?
Yes.
Brian, you want to take this one?
Well, I think you put it up, but I think it's interesting because so we're going to do a mix today of we realized that a lot of it was talking about current events last episode, and today we wanted to talk a little bit more about sort of things that affect, I guess, or help add more value to the younger entrepreneurs watching or people who are already running their own businesses or thinking about it. So, we're going to have a mix of that too, so we'd love to hear your feedback as we go through. But this article is actually, it's talking about mentors, a young entrepreneur's secret weapon is this article on entrepreneur.com. It's actually an article from a Canadian, which is awesome. But,
a little added bonus.
Maybe we chose it. Just kidding. But there's some items here where it helps you. It talks about how you can manage your mentor network. There's a bunch of points, but there's a few that I do want to mention that hopefully we can talk about a bit in terms of our own personal experiences with mentors. But stuff like determine your needs, take time to network, listen more, talk less, be mentorable. And that, you're always learning, remaining flexible, all that. This actually flows really well from some of the stuff that I feel helps us as young entrepreneurs as a default behavior that we're allowed to do, which is what I call sort of constantly learning or constantly in a state of learning, which is really what attests to this. But I feel like in just my thoughts, and I'll let you guys jump in, is being in a constant state of learning gives you the excuse to learn from everybody, meet them, be harmless essentially, and just grow without people thinking that you're a threat. It's so important that that's the case. But that's worked really well for me.
I don't think the four of us would be here today if we didn't have a mentor who took us under their wing and took us around to people. I mean, in my case, it was Robert Scoble and Louis Gray. I mean, when I first got into tech, I didn't know really anyone. And it took, those people to really introduce me to people and teach me kind of how to act in a professional environment. Because when you're a young entrepreneur going to these events with a bunch of experienced entrepreneurs and venture capitalists, you need to act very professional. And so if it wasn't for those two, in my case, I probably wouldn't be here today. And I mean, for you, it's like Matt Van Horn. For Joey, it's probably someone at Google. I mean, Sophia, it's probably your dad who's a serial entrepreneur. I mean, we all have these mentors who really helped us get where we are today.
But how do you feel was sort of the best way for you to become closer and closer to folks like Robert over time and then learn and continue to learn even to this day?
I mean, I think the big thing is just show them how much you appreciate what they have done for you so they know that you actually learned something from them. I mean, just a few weeks ago. And
you mean showing it as in actually practicing what they've taught
exactly.
you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
like sending them gifts. I mean,
no.
Yeah.
I mean, I send Robert a bouquet of flowers every now and then. But taking what they have kind of taught me. I mean, Louis Gray, who now works at Google on the Google Plus project. I mean, he's taught me a lot about how to, for example, make a lot better like decks when presenting to people. And he works with me one-on-one. We'll spend an hour and a half working on a deck, and he'll work with me to like refine it and things like that. And I watch him and I kind of learn. And then when I do another deck, he'll see my improvements and he'll see that I've taken his advice and his feedback and things like that. And so I think it's very important to have a mentor.
Yep.
For example, I mean, one of the big things for us in the Teens in Tech incubators, we have over 65 mentors.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things in the program is because you need to have those kind of mentors to help you learn.
Agreed. And I do want to say that sometimes your mentor doesn't have to be the most obvious one.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us feel like, I got to chase after, the well-known, folks. And you're like, oh, my God, Kevin Rose, I want Kevin Rose, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, at the end of the day, the people who end up helping you the most, you have to be able to recognize that and learn that just because they're not loud doesn't mean that they can't help you. And most of them can, and in very big ways.
The biggest thing is just asking. I think, people learn to, they think, they might be too busy or they might be too much. But I think early on, even as young entrepreneurs, it's so important to reach out and to get advice from, the top people that you can find. For me, it was definitely like Marissa Meyer from Google and a lot of these people that I really looked up to for years and years of like great inspirations and people that I can really learn a lot from. And so I always encourage, everybody to definitely go out there, find who your inspirations are, send them an email or, send them, I remember when I was like 17, I emailed Daniel Burka, who was the designer at Dig. And I was like, I would love for you to review my portfolio and the stuff that I've done. And then he wrote back this like 3-page, like kind of response of like amazing feedback and things like that. And so like, even to this day, like that was a while ago, but like, people really remember the little things. And if you could be that to other people as well, that's, really, great and special for a lot of people that are in this field and they want to get motivated to start their own company, to find people that they can work with and to, invest with and really create the next big thing. Because you really do need mentors and you do need people that you can look up to and advisors that can help you along the way because they'll push you forward.
Yeah, dude.
Two
mentors.
I think you'll also be surprised of how many people can actually give you advice by not being like the biggest Kevin Rose or the biggest Jack Dorsey. There's a lot of people who have gone through experiences of failed startups and they've learned a lot through there also. And I think it's important to hear their advice.
Awesome.
Let's move on to the next story. So this was actually a really interesting guest post that we had on the Teens in Tech blog. And I'm not trying to be like self-promotional, but this actually was a really good post from a guy in New York named Charles Perello. He's another teen entrepreneur. And it's about this idea of seasteading, which is building these islands,
I love this.
floating cities of water and placing them in international waters to form their own society. So I think it was Peter Thiel posted something very similar to this. And I find these these ideas very interesting. I feel like the four of us, this is something we would definitely enjoy, because we are kind of our own kind of breed of entrepreneurs, because we're young, we take risks, we don't really follow the rules per se, and being able to be surrounded by other young entrepreneurs who don't really follow the rules, I think will bring more creativity.
Agreed. So is this a literal term or a figurative thing? Like, are they saying that there's actually going to be islands built?
I think they actually tried.
Yeah, wasn't there
Or
someone who funded?
I think
Yep.
Yeah.
Peter, I think, funded one of these. And I think Hermione Way, Ben Way is Hermione Way from what?
The Next Web?
The Next Web, yeah.
Yeah.
Her brother is actually trying to start one of these too in New York. It's fascinating, actually, because I think, to me, the implications are more around immigration. The fact that these may be sort of independent, sort of, I don't even know what the political, like,
I don't think they're
sovereign...
Colonies.
Yeah, colonies.
Yeah.
Colonies.
I think I'm fascinated with this kind of stuff just because it's so, interesting with, like, space exploration, or even like seasteading, something like this, where, you can do like a really great thought exploration of, like, if I were to own my own country, how would I operate it? And how would I, what would the culture, what would the politics be like? And, this stuff is kind of like fascinating on that sense. I know, like, Sergey and Larry, they all kind of like backed it, and they kind of think of not just where we are now, but where is it going the next 10 years, where is it going the next 20 years, and like I believe people can own their own colonies and their own islands, and then kind of make it very democratic in the sense of maybe like it's internet run, or like there's no politics, but it could be very flat. And so seeing like what the next evolution of like a new age kind of
I do want to say, though, that it is kind of sad that this has to be a literal idea, and the government should really pay attention to the fact that people are even proposing these things in the first place. When you think about it, this is really a big middle finger that's saying, you're not doing it for us right now. This is not helping. Like, the current environment and the political structure may not be the most conducive to the types of entrepreneurial activities that we want to participate in right now. So I think as much as government resources are limited, and there's a lot of initiatives being started right now that I think will pay attention to this, which is I'm very happy about. But frankly, it's like, guys, it's not working. Please figure it out. This is just I guess this, in some cases, someone's going to be crazy enough to make it happen in reality. But why don't we learn from some of the things that they're asking for and apply that? And I think in many ways, Silicon Valley did that, right?
No.
Not really working in the best way, for the last, it's been working up until a certain point, and I think there's more that's being asked from it. But I think you're looking at Mayor Bloomberg and then also pledging that New York City is going to be, the next valley. And I feel like please stop trying to go, I'm going to be the next Silicon Valley. That's so sad to try to use that as a continuous rallying cry, but rather say, why don't I do my best to use what's unique about the region that we're in to create successful businesses?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, one of the things that I am really excited about, the potential of something like this, is building a new education system. Because I think there's a few issues with our current education system. I think it's been around too long. It's kind of too big to try to rework. And so trying to build an education system for entrepreneurs where it's really hands-on and you learn by doing, not by seeing someone do, I think that could be really interesting, especially in a place that's as creative and as vibrant as this could be.
I think that's critical because, Brian, you asked me earlier of how I learned Android, and I took 1 or 2 Java classes, but at the end of the day, I kind of picked it up and I hacked my way together and figured it out. And I think that's the future, and that's how you learn, because you get to actually do something in real life and you get to see it being made, and that's what gets you motivated.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's fascinating, too, because it's almost like you talk about education as a separate entity that we need to form for entrepreneurs. I feel like the tendency for folks now in our generation is that we are self-starters, regardless of how people put it. And the education system, I feel like it was a chicken and egg thing. I think the education system might actually be creating us to be less self-starting. Yeah. So I think it's like you go back to the basics of capitalism and the economy and the world, and how most of us, when we started our first businesses, were based on the premise of, okay, how do I make my own wealth? How do I become self-sufficient? And then we learned, I can be a pencil pusher and still earn money now. And that's when things started to change. And the people who refuse to believe that, I think, are the people who continue to emerge as entrepreneurs. But like you're saying, Daniel, the education system overall, this is an entirely different conversation. It's going to take like 10 hours, but it's like that obviously is a part of this island and what we're thinking of right now.
Yeah. Well, before we go into a full-on debate, let's move on to our next story, which is about engineering serendipity. Brian, you want to take this one?
I do, because this is a topic that's very close to my heart. I saw this article on TechCrunch, and I started nodding my head and just being really excited about the fact that this is now a topic that people are going to be talking about en masse as a general sort of principle for entrepreneurship. It's a guest post by Catherine Cook, who's one of the co-founders of My Yearbook. And they just sold or something, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yep. She's pretty young, too. But it's sort of talking about sort of this. You'll notice sometimes that some entrepreneurs will say, oh, yeah, this just happened to me. I just met this person and we just got funded and blah, 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 and all this amazing stuff. And you're like, how does this happen to this person, right? Like, why are they always so lucky? And I call it, generating serendipity. It's like, how do you create your own luck? And I believe it comes in two components. Half is your own perspective on things, and the other half is the environment that you're actually in. So what I mean by that really quickly is perspective is like you look at opportunities as opportunities rather than things that are barriers. So, for example, basic thing for us is age. A lot of people look at age as a barrier. Oh, I can't take, people won't take me seriously, blah, blah, blah. It's actually an enabler. You can walk into a meeting wearing this, and they'll expect you to be innovative, and you'll be able to wow them. And that's a given, and that's something that's happening now more and more so. So that's an opportunity there that just was previously perceived as a barrier, but now is also all of a sudden a positive thing. And then environment-wise, you move to areas that are conducive so that, I felt so comfortable here, and why I chose to work at Dig when I was sort of assessing the opportunities that I had when I first graduated, was that I didn't have to repeat myself 4 times to tell people what I was doing. Simple as that. People got it. They're like, oh, yeah, you work. Okay, got it. Yeah, cool. They do that. Okay, cool. And it's like you can get past that and start, doing something meaningful. So that's just, I feel like that's making your luck is a key part, but it's a component of both those halves.
I think that's important because that's one of the things that I've been struggling with. And you can't, if you try to go out and copy other people's success, it's not really going to work. You have to create your own thing, and you have to figure it out on your own, and you have to try different things. And it doesn't always mean that you're going to be successful on the first time. But over time, I think it's important to kind of do your own thing and figure it out by yourself.
Yeah, I'm definitely really inspired by kind of like the Master Key System, which was a book that Bill Gates read early on about when he was starting Microsoft. And, it definitely says about kind of living, I love the future and living of, kind of where, not just who you are now, but who you want to be, right? So whether it's like you're kind of dressing as like, you want to be respected in the community of like, and creating opportunities, looking for opportunities and being really excited about life, and loving and being grateful for what you have right now. And then, just kind of putting yourself in places that would give you opportunity as well, whether, people that want to see you succeed and, being really positive and optimistic about, where everything is going and meeting the right people that can, bring you to, success. And I think it's just more of a mindset than anything else, right? Like when you wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, today is going to be an amazing day. I'm going to meet amazing people. You really have to like be focused, like, really focused on just thinking about that. And, that's always helped me along the way, whether it's starting companies or, kind of, it really just has to be about like what you're thinking of, like in your mind and making sure that it's a positive and because then you'll attract it, right? You'll totally attract what you're thinking, whether it's good or bad.
Like, incubators are built because they're designed to generate serendipity, right? You're gonna run into someone who's coming in to help another company that may actually be able to help you as well. You're gonna, sit down and all of a sudden someone sits down next to you and they start opening up their laptop and you just can't help but notice that they're working on another design and you go, oh, well, how did you do that? And da-da-da-da-da. And these things I feel like, we've done really well here. Back in Vancouver now, I feel like, region-specific concentrations are very important for that because it feels so weird, though, because we're saying generating and it feels constructed, but let's just keep it random. Let's just continue to sort of have that appeal or this sort of allure of it being pure chance. But, frankly, if you were to scientifically calculate this stuff, there's a reason why I ran into you on my flight back from Vegas. And there's a reason why certain things happen in these areas. So
yeah. Well, let's move on to our next story, which is from time.com, which is 2012, the year of the entrepreneur. And I feel like this has been said for like the last 2 years.
More like the last 10 years.
Yeah, like the last 10 years. But Scott Gerber, who's the author of this article, who's the founder of the Young Entrepreneur Council, wrote an interesting article about how companies are really adapting and starting to create innovative ideas. He mentioned just a few like Indiegogo and Kickstarter and things that really bring ideas to life. What do you think? I mean, is 2012 the year of the entrepreneur kind of being overused now, or do you still think it's a trend that's happening?
I mean, what Barack Obama just said, we should inspire for the people that want to be the next Steve Jobs, right? 2012 is this year of opportunity, and people, through a mass of what people, I think, with loss of jobs and things like that, people really encourage people to start their own companies and their own businesses. And now is the time. Like, you talk to anybody in Silicon Valley, like, now's the time for raising, capital and, hiring people and coming up with that idea that you've always wanted to have, whether, it's, you're thinking of something in, the shower and it comes to you and you need to build it. Like, you need to find the right people and find the opportunity, because now is the time more than ever. Yeah, I think you can raise capital and do more of that now.
Can I point out though that I think there's a difference in our conception of an entrepreneur here and then an entrepreneur out there, right? And I think Obama was talking about the entrepreneur out there. That Steve Jobs was a inspirational figure for everybody that wanted to aspire to create something from nothing, because he just came from rags to riches, literally.
Yep.
But what we are seeing now is just, I think it's more of an economic driver. This is just economic activity and not taking things as they are, right? I think Scott talks about this, and I think a lot of us should recognize that. Have you guys seen the video of Steve when he talked about sort of like the number one realization he had that changed how he viewed things, and that hopefully other entrepreneurs would view the same way, was that when you walk around in the world you see today, everything around you was made by someone, was defined by someone. A rule was created by a human being. This laptop, obviously, everything was a norm that was set by somebody. But then when you realize that somebody could be you, that you could be the next changing factor of that blows your mind. That these things, street signs, what's street signs? Who said that street signs have to be there? Stuff like that. And that's when things begin to really open up. And I think we need more of that thinking, and we can't be closed-minded. We can't assume too much. And that's what I think is really important for this.
So the way I look at it is that each of us has an own perspective, right? And each of us has a different way that we view the world, right? And that's what's important, because we all have a different perspective. We all have a bunch of different ideas, and we want to make the world a certain place. Steve Jobs wanted to make a very unified, design-friendly space, a world, and he did that, right? And we all have our own perspective, and we can do that through entrepreneurship, and I think that's what's important.
Awesome. Absolutely. Shall we move on to the next story?
Yes, sir.
So this one is about Apple and their introduction of iBooks 2, and I think the overall...
Wait, startup secrets?
We're going to do this one after.
Okay, first.
So the whole idea with Apple's announcement in New York last week or 2 weeks ago is Apple's now trying to change the textbook industry, which I think is awesome, because Apple is, I think they're realizing that there's a huge potential here. But MG Siegler wrote a great post on TechCrunch, which is, this is what Apple announced is great for college students, which probably can't afford an iPad. But what about high school students?
Yeah.
Can they afford an iPad? Well, obviously, they're not going to buy it. Their parents are.
So the reason why I put this article down was actually less of a discussion about Apple, but more about a discussion about just generally the way we're learning through content right now. I want this discussion to extend to stuff like Code Academy, and other services online right now that are democratizing knowledge. And I'm excited about that right now, because we have a lot of change that still needs to happen, and I'm glad that Apple brought that spotlight to this space.
I think it's been a long time coming. We all have iPads, and I think it makes sense that these devices which are extremely intuitive. And I mean, just a few weeks ago, my grandma, who's 87 years old, understood how to use an iPad. I mean, she was flicking from left and right, going through photos and things like that. And that's when you realize that this technology is extremely powerful. And so that's why I think, I mean, there's videos, tons of videos, thousands of little, babies understanding how to use an iPad, which I think is wonderful. Because it shows that this technology is really going to be powerful.
The most amazing thing is that 2-year-olds can use iPads, right? Yeah. Like that's the perfect design, right? Where there's no learning curve, there's no nothing. You can literally just look at it and be like, oh, this is how it works. I can swipe and I can move it left and right. Like there's an amazing book designers that I would recommend called The Design of Everyday Things, where it's like, if you just look at a mug, how would I, pick it up? Or how would I, you can just look at it and you can see like, okay, this handle looks like I can pick it up, right? Yeah. And so, that same with the computer, you have this barrier to entry of having to learn a keyboard and having to learn a mouse, which is very,
I love how you just use barrier to entry.
There is.
Love it. Love it.
I'm a geek. What can I say? Yeah. But there's like that layer in between, and so with touch devices, there is a learning curve, and it's really important that there's no learning curve because anybody could be able to use it.
The other problem is adoption. I mean, it's one thing if the user adopts, the student, but the teachers also have to adopt this technology. The schools have to adopt it. The school districts have to adopt it. This is expensive technology. I mean, this is going to cost thousands of dollars. An iPad costs...
dudes. Having it deployed into schools in general.
Yeah.
But it's going to be many years out. Like, I will tell you right now, frankly, it's a great thing, and I'm glad they kicked it off today. We will not... I will say that I don't think we'll see a meaningful, palpable, noticeable change in a learning experience until probably several years out. Like, we're going to have to wait a while.
But if you notice, like before, there's all these other online tools coming out for schools, like having your homework online, having your grade book online, and I think books is the final step in that process.
And they're $14.99 per textbook.
Dude, thank you.
I mean, unbelievable. I just paid $200 from one of my college class textbooks.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, the biggest thing too I remember in school is like carrying around that heavy backpack and like having all your and causing back pain and like having a locker when you can actually.
A company called Backplane.
Backplane. Good one. No. Yeah, but like you could totally just download all of that onto your iPad, and a really amazing company that I really loved was called Push Pop Press too, and I really
got bought by Facebook.
Got bought by Facebook. I wish they would have done more with that too, because it was like it took this whole concept of book reading and magazine to like the next level. But I think we'll see more companies like that.
I do want to issue a challenge to everybody out there listening that I think the concept of a book, as much as Apple's trying to revolutionize that and say, ooh, well, the book can have videos in it and it can be cute and have like an intro video and some guy with a beard saying that the universe is cool. But like that, I feel like the word book for us is still going to hold some connotations. I feel like we need to go beyond that. And this is just saying, like, I don't know what the answer is. I'd rather us think about almost a holistic learning experience that'll come from other people. Like companies like Skillshare and Code Academy are doing that really well. And then it'll come from up above, from editorial and professors that are making their knowledge known and recording it. But I think that the learning experience tomorrow will have to acknowledge the following. You can always go on Wikipedia and find anything you want. That's not going to change. Or at least during the SOPA protest. Secondly, we have to somehow figure out a way to help people absorb and create intuitive responses to the stuff that they're learning. And thirdly, we need to know how to apply, right? Like this stuff is not being applied at all right now. It sits there when I finish a test, and it holds little relevancy until I actually start doing it. Right?
You can imagine like a classroom, of the future of, everybody having their own iPad, everybody being on the same page. Literally,
you can take tests, and the teacher can, see what they're answering
so
live.
Cool.
I mean, things like that.
And then you could be highlighting collaboratively, like with everybody else on, the in the classroom, and talk about it in group discussion, and it just opens up more opportunities for education and technology.
Robotbot in the chat room said, I think one of the best things is the web is the best book I've ever read. I I mean,
Yeah, dude.
so many people can learn from the web. I mean, people look at YouTube as a place to goof off, but that's where I learned how to code. I mean, I saw tutorials and things like that. That's where I see, influential interviews on TED and things like that. I mean, the web is what we make of it. And if we make it a learning and education platform, then a lot of young people can learn how to code and help fill the jobs that Zynga and Apple and Google and Facebook and Twitter and eBay and Yahoo and all these companies are struggling to fill.
I feel like everybody should be Einstein by now. I mean, you have every piece of information available to you.
We could very well be, if we download everything on the web, I mean, that's infinite knowledge, right? Like, we know everything, and I think we could definitely, be there. I think learning from YouTube and getting inspired by TED Talks, that's what I love doing. Even like the Stanford and MIT now are having all their broadcasts on iTunes, and I love like the HCI courses and the programming courses. If you're looking to like do iPhone development, you have an idea for an iPhone application, one of the best courses is the Stanford EDU iPhone application development course.
That too,
that was amazing, like 13-week like kind of like course that was definitely taught me a lot about like kind of just the basics of Objective-C programming. So like if you have an idea for an iPhone application, you don't have to find somebody to kind of build it. You can actually try to teach it and learn it yourself. Like, that's definitely
I think that's the best type of learning. And the way I learned is I had that video showing up on one monitor, and I was doing it myself on the other monitor. And by doing it, that's the way that I learned it. I think that's the future of being able to watch these videos that everybody's creating it.
And there was no teacher saying, you have a test next week and tell me how much you memorized.
Exactly.
Because that's irrelevant.
Because
memory is one part of the brain, dude. Everything else is more important. Like, this is being stored.
It's funny because like you remember like having to learn like the state, just like really specific facts.
Yeah.
And now like you can get all those facts instantly.
Yeah.
So it's much more about like the kind of working together in a team, like in project-based kind of things, and also much more about computational kind of thinking, with like, calculus and things like that, where it takes much more brain power and not just, here's these facts, memorize it, right? Like that's not.
I think we're moving away from the age of what score you got on a test to actually what can you do and what have you done.
Right.
And that's important.
All right. Awesome. I'm really glad we discussed that because it's a huge topic about learning. And I think
we can talk about this literally for hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I do want to do, before we jump into the kids or young entrepreneurs in the Valley as our next segment, I do want to do a quick shout out for some of you guys who are looking for even more of these startup tips and secrets and learnings that we've been talking about. There's a really cool segment that Rafe Needleman from CNET has that started called Startup Secrets. You can find it on the screen there. I don't know if there's a direct URL. I think you just search Startup Secrets in one word. And Rafe's been interviewing. He's been doing these like G.I. Joe interviews. Like, hey, what do you think, right? And like basically getting people to give their thoughts. And some of them are pretty awesome. And they come from really, 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 really cool entrepreneurs.
Definitely a good read.
And he's at number 26 now, so you got a bunch to use, and he'll continue to update. So do check it out when you have the time. All right.
Our next segment, Young Entrepreneurs in the Valley. We're going to start with the one right to the left of me, Saphir from Mez. So tell us kind of, there's a video on YouTube which is a quick demo video. We talked a little bit about Mez in the intro, but talk a little bit more about the technology really quickly with Mez.
So there's actually some really cool stuff that we're doing with the technology side. So, Twitter is basically a fire hose of information, and there's tons of information out there. There's people tweeting from all over the world. And what we've done is we've built natural language processing to input those tweets into Mez and finding those locally relevant tweets and bringing it into allowing people to actually view it and read it in a much more readable approach with images and maps of where to go. So if there's an activity happening that someone tweets, we pull it into Mez with the picture and photo, and people can go see it if they want to.
Yeah. Let's go ahead to the next one. This young entrepreneur has been getting a ton of attention. Originally, I think he was found by Om Malik at GigaOM, and since then he's been in Fortune, the BBC, all over the place. His name is Nick D'Alonzo. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering his name.
D'Aloisio.
Okay. Good try, Brian.
Yeah,
Anyways, he is the founder of a company called Sumly. They raised $250,000 from Horizon Ventures, which is the venture arm of Li Ka-shing, who is one of the original investors in Facebook, Spotify.
And is a Chinese billionaire.
He is one of the world's richest people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I mean, huge congrats to Nick. I actually use Sumly a lot. Their technology is really impressive. And
what does Sumly do? Tell some of the people.
Yeah, so Sumly, you put in a URL, and it in bullet points gives you the main kind of facts of the story, so that you can have a quick overview of what that article is without actually having to read it.
I think I gotta tell you. So when I first got wind of Nick, I realized that the reason why he's getting a lot of attention right now is he's actually done something. So
instead of talking, he built.
He built this, and everybody's clamoring to grab a piece of him right now, which well deserved. And you have to realize that Sumly is built by some pretty awesome stuff. It's actually an idea that was bouncing around my head for a while around how we can cut through all the prose noise, so to speak. In English, is actually relatively inefficient to get a point across. Like you'll have pleasantries and intros and cannon fodder in the middle, and then a little bit of extra stuff, and then the point. and he's just like, let's just get to the point. Let's just find the stuff that matters and then show it to you. Now, I do feel like without the stuff in the middle, we're going to lose a lot of the elegance and prose of some articles, which I encourage you, beyond just news that gives you just like tidbits of information, to actually read opinion articles, which I think this might actually begin to strip away the value of. But I think it's just one of those interesting things. And everybody's focusing on his age again. It still is very much so one of the things that people do like to hook on and make a big point.
It's the leading part of any story.
It sure is. Yeah. But I think his company itself is cool. It's great.
Do you guys think this is something about the Twitter revolution and the 140 characters of how we want to get to our information really fast and get right to the point?
I think it's just the world. I think we're getting a lot more schizophrenic. There's so much information.
We don't have
there.
time to read three pages of text. We want to get the best, most relevant kind of the big story kind of idea from an article.
People will always be busy, and they're always looking to save time. So the more that you can save time, the better. And it's always going to be a fact. So you
keep
can
your eye out on him. I hope he doesn't. Believe too much in his own hype, which is definitely important for people not to do when this happens early on. And I really hope he doesn't, that he continues innovating and just ignores all of that. And in fact, one of the most respected entrepreneurs in the Valley, the ones that are super young that have done really well, the ones that just whatever, let's just build and continue building. I'm glad.
It's all about the work. At the end of the day, it's just what you create and what you do, and your work speaks for yourself. So that's the biggest thing.
And it is good to note that Nick is not in Silicon Valley. He is overseas in the United Kingdom.
Yep.
So speaking of overseas, but not really, our next young entrepreneur who we're talking about are the founders of Sumify, who are actually from your native Canada, Brian.
Actually, they were from Romania, and then
they moved to Canada
to participate in a program called Boot Up Labs,
which is in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about Sumify, which is their company, it was just bought by Twitter.
Yes.
So congratulations to them. Christian Stratt, who's one of their co-founders, he is a young guy. Sumify brings you the best kind of content that you want on Twitter in a quick email digest or on the web. And
you're not really doing it just because I love their product. I will tell you what it does is it basically is the simplest thing, but it wasn't done properly up until they created Sumify, which was taking all of your social signals and stuff that's being shared and every day emailing you a summary of what were the hottest articles that day. Usually about 5 or 6, and that's it. And you could read it in a day and went, okay, that's what everybody was talking about. Genius.
I think this is important because there's so much information on the web, and being able to actually discover that at the end of the day, that's what's important. I mean, that's what Mez is about too. It's about discovering local activities and events with all that information out there. And Sumify is just another discovery platform for news relevant to you.
So I do want to point out really quickly, though, that when the announcement of the acquisition came out, they actually announced that they were going to shut down the service. And I do want to spend hopefully a minute here talking about this, which is all too often we're seeing these companies now being eaten up And whether it's an acqui-hire or a fire sale, I don't know, but we're losing these valuable services. And the sentiment on the articles were very much so torn. It was people going, congratulations, Christian and all you guys, for getting a lot of money and whatever and being happy and whatever, but we just lost the service. So it was very
Hopefully
bittersweet.
Twitter will do something with it.
Yeah.
I think they're.
But how long
they,
is
they
that going
bought
to
them
take?
for the talent.
But how long is that going to take?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Man.
acquisition. I mean, as Vinman in the chat says, acquisition is a hiring strategy.
Yeah, and I feel like that trend. to
Sometimes
me,
it's the cheapest way to get the best talent.
it is, and you're accepting that from the business point of view. But now I'm saying for the greater good, for
Oh, absolutely.
for the
No,
world
I agree
and
with
the
you.
tech industry. If we begin to see consolidation consolidation through talent, because there's such a low supply of talent versus consolidation through value and services, I think is a very dangerous trend.
Yep.
I think we're going to lose innovation through consolidation of talent, which never really should have been the focus of hiring. It's just that the cost of hiring is now so high that acquisition is the most effective. These are effectively takeovers of businesses, which are
Hostile.
not hostile.
I'm
because
just
they
kidding.
actually got their permission. But
Yep.
these are the things that I feel like are going to not do a brain drain of talent, but rather a brain drain of services and ideas.
Yeah, the chat room's definitely mentioning Pounce back in the day too. That was one of the big things that it was actually really, I would say, ahead of its time, you know, and then it got acquired by Six Apart and they kind of shut it down, a lot of these services. And, you know, it's a little different than when, well, actually Picnic was like kind of the same thing with Google and
Hot potato with Facebook. And
yeah, you know, what's the operational
Dropio by
cost of this?
Facebook.
I think they should just like keep some of these, you know, kind of up. I mean, same thing with GoWallet too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we can.
I mean, the problem is that there's so much technical demand out there. I mean, Brian, before the show, you're mentioning to me, do you guys know any iOS developers? And
Yeah.
everyone is looking for an iPhone developer, and it's just crazy how much demand there is.
Yeah.
There's companies paying $5 to $10,000 for people to refer an engineer.
Yeah.
And it's just outstanding.
I'm
why-
just lamenting about the sadness. I think the market will even itself out, but I think people need to talk about this. It needs to be a topic that's out there. Not enough people do this because you'll see an article on TechCrunch. It'll be, congratulations, amazing.
Totally.
Not really. Like, I know you guys are happy, but this service is now gone,
Yeah.
right? It's not a good thing. And from the perspective of the economy and from the perspective of the P&Ls of these businesses, awesome. They now have talent and their market cap just increased X whatever. But there needs to be something that needs to be said about, hey, guys, don't be tempted. Don't be tempted, and let's build something big when you start something.
Good.
So before we go on another tangent, let's talk about another young entrepreneur who is in the Valley, the product designer of one of my favorite products right now, Path, Danny Trin, who's 21 years old, probably one of the best designers, I would say, in the world right now, for his
That
work
you
with
know of.
that I know of. Yeah, touche. That he, you know. He is very humble. So he did an interview on TechCrunch TV with Samil Shah, and he's very humble. And I love that about a great designer like Danny.
Danny is amazing.
He really is, and he's 21 years old. Dropped out of the University of North Carolina to go work at Path full time. Used to work at Dig. Amazing guy, full of energy, but also an even better designer.
What I love about this is that I'm glad that TechCrunch is now highlighting the brains behind certain products, and
It's not always the CEO.
It is. I mean, like, yes, there's a lot of credit that Dave has gotten, and yes, Dave has done an amazing job building Path. However, I'm glad that now, you know, you see underneath the hood. This is actually where the sausage is made. This dude is what you're seeing. You're seeing Danny in that app, and it's amazing what he's built.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Path is still a product I use to this day. I just used it about an hour ago, and I posted a picture on Path into Facebook. I mean, just the small details, and I can imagine, you know, what Danny and the rest of the Path team kind of went through, thinking, how can we make an amazing experience? Not just a great design, but an amazing experience. Because when I use Path, I have a great experience using it, and that's what keeps me coming back.
I feel like the challenge that was issued probably by Dave and probably some of the folks over at the company were, how do we define new design norms? And that's one thing that I try to challenge our team to do, is that, remember Lauren Brichter, and he invented basically the pull down refresh
On the iPhone.
on the iPhone. every designer should challenge themselves to create new norm. You created a new norm with Cortex. I mean, really, you did. I mean, holding your mouse down, that's cool, right? And I think everybody should challenge themselves to do that. And that's what Danny did.
I think the innovation behind that, and with Cortex as well, is it's about simplicity, right? As how can you do the bare minimum simplicity, make it so easy for users that it's almost seamless.
Absolutely.
Yep. So that ends our second segment. Our third segment, and unfortunately our last segment, is stuff entrepreneurs say. So first we're gonna play a quick video which has been making the rounds. It's really just this meme that has been coming around for the last few days, weeks, which is about XYZ, or stuff XYZ says, and you can kind of fill in the blank. But let's go ahead and take a listen to this video.
And the internet. Loading. And then after that, by the way, guys, we're going to go through. So we crowdsourced some of these comments through Twitter and Facebook, and I'm going to be reading out some of our favorites.
Perfect idea. Dude, this idea is unstoppable.
You're saying
there we go.
it's a social network for toddlers?
Like Groupon, only bigger.
Dude, let's go viral right now.
How do we go viral?
Is my video frozen? Can you hear me? Skype hates me.
Richard Branson is the man.
MVP.
I bet you if you put my startup against your startup, I'm like 9 times leaner. You waste money. Pivot.
Yeah, A/B test, then pivot, and if you still don't know, pivot again.
Overheard. Time to pivot. You're not following me on Twitter?
I love Mondays. Conversions. Splash page.
A/B testing.
Test everything.
What's the difference between an angel and a VC?
I've not slept in 3 days.
We are killing it.
My team is powered by Red Bull and pizzas.
Hacker. Hey, do you know any good designers? Awesome. Entourage. Yeah, you could be E.
Together, we will kill Instagram.
Connect it to Facebook. Viral spread. Boom, boom.
Facebook, killer.
Is this fair trade?
Read Mashable.
TechCrunch? Hey, where are you staying for South by?
Did we meet at South by?
Summit Series on the boat.
Who uses LinkedIn? You use LinkedIn? Y Culminator.
Angel List. You got to be on Angel List.
Techstars.
Health insurance.
Steve Jobs was like a father to me.
Dude, Steve Jobs was totally a fruitarian. I love fruit.
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, he's like, you know what's cool? Like $1 billion.
Freemium with an F.
We're not too concerned about profit right now.
Freemium.
One word, ad space.
All we need is like 1 or 2% of the market, and we're billionaires.
Get like 1 million people on the site, throw up some ads, money.
Donald Trump is a douche.
So the good folks over at Grasshopper made that video. Pretty funny.
Awesome.
And so now we're going to take some of this crowdsourced content that Brian has brought to us today.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, they're great. So some of them you guys didn't hear actually. So there's a bunch like Kevin Rose, Chris Sacca, Gary Vaynerchuk, Dave McClure is probably going to invest in us.
Da-dun.
We're going to do that every single time.
Yes.
I just started another company, or we've got here, I'm still waiting for my big idea before I quit my job. Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates dropped out of college, so... and then there's one that's kind of similar to what was mentioned in the video. There's a $50 billion market for X. I think in 5 years' time, we'll own 90% of it. I raised on a 15 pre and can't get into this bar for a meetup. Seriously? Another one. Got an idea. All I need is a coder. And we got a few more here.
That's a line I've heard too often.
You hear it a lot, actually, and I think that's just an indicator of that would be the more business-centric founders. Here's another. No brand cuffs. Yeah.
And that is from College Humor.
Yeah. Dude, our Series A party is going to be sick. If it's not going to be $1 billion exit, it's not worth starting. It's going to be revolutionary. If only I had more funding. The finished product will only take 3 months. MVP was,
Minimal viable.
We are going to pivot.
Viable.
We're about to get a term sheet any day now. I was actually on the front page of Hacker News. And, oh, I love this one. We're looking for rock stars. Dude, you hear that all the time.
Yes.
Rock stars,
ninjas.
Ninjas. Dude.
So thank you, everyone who submitted their response.
That's awesome. How about anybody? We're looking at the chat room right now. Any other ones that you guys think of?
Any other funny stuff on
While we wait, there's another one here. I have no competitors. Yeah,
it's all about making money. There we go.
Exactly. Yeah, dude. Or I'll make X millions in the first year. Can you get me an intro to X? Yeah, that was awesome.
Yep.
Sahil did a whole bunch of questions here. He said, how do I learn a code? Can you intro me? How did you start? Do I really have to do that? You're still in school? How much have you raised?
Brian, this one's for you. I'm the world's youngest entrepreneur to raise VC.
That's not my title anymore. That's Nick. Yeah. He took that one and placed it on his own Wikipedia page 10 times over.
So I think with that, we're going to wrap things up. Let's just go quickly around where we can find each other on the web. Joey, where can we find you?
Yep, I'm Joey Permiani. You can follow me on Twitter at JP.
I'm Brian Wong. You can find me on Twitter at Brian_Wong and at BrianWong.me.
I'm Safir Mahideen. You can find about all my social networks on Safir.me.
And I'm Daniel Bruslovsky. You can find me on Twitter at DanielBrew and at DanielBrew.com. This concludes episode number 3 of FutureWeb. A big thank you to the Twit Network, to our producer Liz, to our special guest Safir. Yes, we didn't get to beach ball. I guess we were smart. Yes, we were very smart. We should be back next month, but thank you so much for tuning in, and this has been episode 3 of FutureWeb.